Hey everyone, welcome to the Mac Talks podcast, a podcast for instructional design. My name is John Gaza. I am an instructional designer here at McLennan Community College in Waco, Texas, and I'm joined by two of my fellow instructional designers.
Hi, I'm Catherine. I'm also one of the instructional designers here.
I'm Claire Wilkeson. I'm also an instructional designer.
Yeah, so welcome to the podcast. We hope that we're still working out the kinks. This is new. Podcasting is new to everybody, so I think we're trying to get our feet set and try not to say too much. There you go. So before we get started, I'm a TikToker. I like TikTok. And I got on it because I was K-12 and I used to listen to I try to figure out my kids, like build those relationships, right? And we'll talk more about that here in a minute. But that's one of the reasons. And there is this song by this. It's a walkout song for a pitcher, and I can't remember the pitcher's name. Let me see. I think I have it on. And this song has gone viral. So it's like his walkout song, right? Oh, it's Edwin Diaz. He's a pitcher for the New York Mets, and the song's "Narco" by Dutch group. It's a Dutch group, Blasterjacks. So if you haven't heard this song, you can go look it up. I can't play it because I think we'll get copyrighted. But
Copyright.
My question to y'all, and I hope you had some time to think about it. So what would be your walkout song? Like if you were a faculty member, we started doing, I'm not saying Dr. McCown should start doing walkout songs for faculty when we introduce them, but if we did, what would be your...
President, you should do that.
So what would be your walkout song? And I hope our faculty are thinking about this too. Email us or shoot us a message on social media if you want to share yours. But what do y'all think?
Yeah, my first reaction was, well, is this a walkout song for me to boost my confidence, or is this to communicate to the others in the room that
you're the best?
That I'm the best.
Yeah.
So if it was to communicate to others, I would probably choose like a very popular song, and one that came to mind was a clip from Harry Styles' song Music for a Sushi Restaurant. Has been really popular on TikTok and Instagram recently, and I think that would kind of get the message across that like I'm here, welcome. Yes. But if it was to hype me up, it would probably actually be High Hopes from Panic at the Disco. That song got me through 2019. So I'm very grateful.
I know that song because Kids Bop, yes. So.
Yeah, nice.
I started singing Music for a Sushi Restaurant in my head just now.
Good.
I think mine, my mom always loved those like classic rock jams. Mm-hmm. And so on the way to school, just listen to Fleetwood Mac, or just really anywhere we'd listen to Fleetwood Mac. So I think mine would be like Don't Stop or Go Your Own Way.
Oh, yeah, good. Those are great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. I like y'all's answers.
Did you have one?
Yeah.
I'm stealing one from my friend. His name is Sam, and I don't think he's going to listen. He may be listening. But we were debating. I was talking about this with some friends the other night, and he said Beastie Boys Sabotage, which to me is like peak, like I'm going to come out and, hype myself up and let everybody know that I'm the best, that's kind of thing. So I really like listening to that song. So
see, when I walk out, listen, with the Fleetwood Mac, people will just think I'm cool, and that's enough for me.
I guess it depends on how old they are, because like I see some age difference in our songs here. Like what eras they're from. I like a lot of '80s music though, because I grew up with it, so I get the Fleetwood Mac. And
I love that Stranger Things is bringing '80s music back for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Right.
That's been really fun.
And I thought about that, like the Master of Puppets.
Yeah,
Metallica.
That's a great song.
I think that was on my list, but...
Well, it's popular now, so you can't, you don't want to... You can't be a hipster.
Yeah.
That's how I felt, too. Like, I can't like it anymore.
Oh, too many people like the thing that I like. Darn it.
You know that... Well, let's talk about... Today, our main, and I hope you may have fast forwarded to this point, our main topic, and what we're going to talk about is building relationships in classrooms and how that translates to online learning, and what are some strategies, what can we do to build relationships with those students. And I feel, as a former K-12 teacher, I'm not taught at this level, at the higher ed level, but I feel like building relationships was the most important thing. It came before the content, although content was important. I really wanted to build the relationships. And I think there's been studies that have shown that students succeed more when they have that relationship built with their teacher. So how do we do that online? What does that look like? So Catherine, you want to share your...
Sure. Yeah, I think when creating an online class, especially after teaching in person for a while, it's good to remember what are the things that happen naturally in an in-person environment that you're going to have to work to create in an online environment. So that first day of class, when students show up, it's really helpful for them to put a face to the name, to kind of understand a little bit about the personality of their teacher. And so since that's not going to happen in an online class or an asynchronous class, you might want to think about either creating a welcome video of yourself or at least providing a photo and a written announcement welcoming students to the class and telling them a little bit about yourself. Something that makes you relatable, helps build those relationships. And then the other thing that I think about happening in an in-person environment really naturally that's harder in an online environment is students feeling the freedom to ask small questions, or questions maybe that they think they should know the answer to, but they just don't. And it's a lot more casual to come up to a teacher before or after class and just be like, hey, I just didn't quite understand this, or this link didn't work for me, was I doing something wrong? So in an online environment, you want to make sure that you're working hard to provide that casual space, whether that be creating a discussion board where students can freely ask questions of each other and of the teacher in a casual way where they're not graded on grammar or professionalism or anything. Or even better, email each of your students individually to kind of start the conversation of, hey, I'm really glad you're in the class. If you have any questions, let me know.
Yeah. I just to go back to the introduction, like that first day, I really do think it's important for teachers, faculty, especially that are just online only, to have some personalization, because it almost feels like if you don't have that, it almost feels like you're a robot, like you're taking a class from a robot. Like, hey, this person's human. Even some of the teachers that may have just like a professional picture, I honestly prefer to see them playing with their pets or their family, or something that makes it feel like, hey, this person is a human being with especially with we don't just have normal students that come from high school. We have some non-trad students, and some of the part of building relationships is finding that common ground. So, hey, this person has a family just like me. They aren't just grading papers and doing work all day. So I think that's really important. So, and also feeling comfortable with the questions. That's also very important. So
yeah, I'm feeling like they care about you as a human. That you're not just a number to them, and that they're not just a textbook to you. Yeah. But if a student believes that a teacher actually cares about them and is invested in their well-being, that totally changes the amount of effort that they're going to bring to the classroom.
Yeah.
And I think about like how diverse our county is, McLennan County. Like you got people in Waco, then you got people in China Springs, you got people all over in Mart, and they're all coming to this one college, and you have to figure out like how can we build relationships and connections with students from so far out,
Yeah.
And so that's why it's imperative to have that sense of collaboration, with your students, whether it's like organizing them into teams or groups in a face-to-face class, and having them start from there, where they build relationships with each other, and then start building that relationship with you, where you go and step at each table and talk with them for a little bit.
Yeah.
If you're online, it's the same concept too. I mean, if you're teaching like blended or high flex, like having a Zoom call where you can, Zoom in with your teams, Zoom in with your groups, or even having one-to-one conferences, with your students. Let's say they wrote a research paper and you're teaching English and you really want to give this student specific feedback. Just invite them into your Zoom and having a conversation, getting to know them. And yeah, that's it.
I think personal feedback for Zoom is awesome, or videos, just giving that personalized. I know as a former teacher, that it is hard to grade and give everybody, especially I had probably 150, 200 kids, and I know our faculty are dealing with way more than that. And it was hard for you to give personalized feedback for work, but it really does build that connection when a student, that could mean the difference in a student saying, I hate this class and I love this class. When they see this was great work, maybe that was all they needed to hear.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it didn't need to be anything more. So I think that's definitely, whether they hear it in person on Zoom, which I think is great, or they hear it on a video or even written. So
we all come from different backgrounds with different experiences. So whatever way that you can find a connection to your students, that's how you build relationships.
Well, if one of the things I like to do is get to know my students, right? So I tried to figure out what they liked, what they were into, so I could see if I could relate. Like I said with TikTok earlier, I try to figure out what's going on with you in your head, and if they liked a meme or there was something I kind of knew from TikTok just watching it. So online, what do you think would be a good strategy for teachers to figure out, hey, how do I get to know my students? What would you think would be a good strategy other than Zoom? I mean, like discussion boards would be good, right?
Yeah, I honestly would. This is gonna sound funny, but I would start with posting like a random meme or like a picture, and I'm like, what would you title this? What would you caption this? And then just have a discussion straight off from there.
Yeah.
And just giving It's like a fun little discussion post.
Sure.
Talking, with one another, giving each other feedback on some of their funny responses. So,
Yeah.
What would you do?
I think incorporating it into an assignment related to the class would help me as a teacher, because then I would be able to, say I'm an English teacher. If I'm not really into video games, but one of my students is, knowing that fact about them that's different from me doesn't help me relate to them very much. More ominous. Honestly, it puts them more in a stereotype category for me if I don't understand what the fun fact that they shared or whatever. But if I say, write a paper on whatever topic you want, and I'm only looking for the fact that you could use a thesis statement and 3 follow-up, points or something. I don't know. Make an assignment that makes sense for your discipline, but then make it open-ended and say, I'm only grading you on these things. Feel free to fill in the content with whatever you're excited about. And then that could help me learn more about them and learn a lot more about whatever they're passionate about, and kind of see how my passion of the subject overlaps with whatever they're passionate about outside of school.
Yeah, I could see that being like a good writing assignment, like, what's your favorite hobby, and write a story about it, write a 3-paragraph story. Now the question is, though, the challenging question here is, how would that look in a math class or chemistry class or engineering class? I mean, I think it could work, but what do you think? Do you think we could...
Oh, yeah. So I think Kenneth Walker, he used to work with us a lot. He's now in our English department. But even before that, he was working with the English department a lot. And so I was looking at one of his old classes, and one of his essays was to, write a movie review, about your favorite movie.
Yeah.
And then I was looking at a hospitality class the other day, teaching about, restaurants, good customer service. And then one of her projects was to create your own restaurant, create your own business. It's just a fun project to get them engaged and also learn about customer service and being kind to people. And
of course, people who are experts in their field are going to know better. We can kind of start the gears going on interesting ideas, but of course if you work in chemistry, you're going to know better than me what would be a good assignment. But it could even be something like, here's an example problem, can you replicate this example problem with something else? Even to just get them thinking creatively. Or if it's a research-based class where they're learning about something that maybe they haven't done yet, asking them to reflect on, have you had any experience at all with this, even if it was from the customer standpoint, or if they're learning about education, you as a student, what have your experiences been? Or if you're learning about reusable energy. Have you ever had experiences with reusable energy? What are you thinking? Just to have those reflection questions also accomplishes a lot of other educational goals, and you get to know them better as a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
I love that because I like the real world tie-in, and then if they have had that experience, because some students, especially since we do have a diverse, even socioeconomic, it's not just area, they haven't had some of the experiences that our faculty or we have had. So to know, hey, can you see this in the real world? That really solidifies the learning too. I think if they can see, hey, this is why I'm learning this. It's not just like I'm learning because I had students all the time. When am I going to use this? But if they can see that, oh, okay, this is how it's used in the real world, that really kind of solidifies and also builds that relationship, right? Because then you figure out, hey, this kid has never seen this, maybe you have a conversation with them about it and say, hey, is this something you'd be interested in? Maybe not. So having those conversations too, I think is important, even if it's over email, as as not as good as in person, but I still think that builds that relationship, right? Showing you concerned about your kids too.
I mean, if I wrote a paper or even just put something as a reflection and turned it into my teacher, and then I got an email back saying, hey, I really liked your reflection. I'm glad to know that you're really interested in this topic as it pertains to this. Like, looking forward to seeing more of your assignments. If I got an email like that, that is an insane, motivation booster.
Oh, yeah.
I suddenly am really, really concerned with this class. I feel really good about myself. I want to do the best that I can in this class.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of my professors in the past, they would always start with, giving me a positive comment about my work. And then they would work into, here are some ways you can, improve, or here are some suggestions in your next paper. And that was always a boost in my confidence because, one, I had a strength, and then I was motivated to improve myself in the future. I loved having that kind of feedback.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So seeing how this conversation keeps expanding into other territories, right? It's not confined to just how you can be personable online, but it's reaching into all of those assignments.
It's being human.
And every single interaction that takes place shows that this is not limited. It's being human. Be yourself.
And if you think about your relationships in your life, not even about school relationships, just relationships with your parents or friends, if you care about that person more, you're more worried about disappointing them, or you're more apt to take their advice when they say, hey, this is a good song. So those relationships that you have really strengthen those other things that come along with it, which I think is part of teaching, right, too. That part of teaching is if you have those relationships built, those students are probably going to work harder for you, and they're probably not going to want to drop out of your class. I think that's important.
Yeah. So we're not talking about this just because it's nice or it looks better or it's prettier or we appreciate it, but because it actually has a significant impact on student success and it leaks into the rest of the course as you teach it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to, for people becoming who they are, this leads to them finding out who they are. I can definitely name off on a list all of the teachers that have impacted my life. I think we can all name somebody who's impacted our life in some significant way. And so this is your way to create that difference in their life, is just by building a simple relationship, by building a connection.
Yeah, which is why I wanted to do this topic for this podcast, because I think, and I'm not sure, I can't judge all of our faculty, but I think most of them will want to teach online or have taught online at some point. And I think it is hard. I mean, when COVID hit and I had to go online, I had to figure out the best way for me to build those relationships with students. And one thing I use that I like is called Padlet. And what I would do is the first day of the school, I would have each of my kids fill out their name and some of their favorites. And Padlet, it's like a big bulletin board.
Yeah.
So I had it up, and I even printed it out so I could look at it. And so whenever I needed to talk to a student, I could always kind of reference it and see, oh, this kid's really into ice cream. So I'm like, hey, I just struck up a conversation. And I think even just if it was a discussion board, and you're having a discussion and somebody posts something and they're the kid that likes ice cream and you say, hey, have you had any good ice cream lately? That kid's going to think, man, that teacher remembers that I like ice cream. That person really must care about me. And that kid may have their parents may not know that. We don't know what kind of background these kids are, so we may be that person in their life. So that's why I love teaching. I miss that aspect of it. But
I also like so Google Jamboard does like the same thing that Padlet does, where the kids or students or like learners can post on Google Jamboard, how they're feeling, or if you can put a question up, and you can see it live. You can actually see people respond live and leave their comments. I also love Flipgrid. You know that I'm a big advocate for Flipgrid. Yes. Everybody in this office does. But I love being able to you get to choose your background. You're making your video, introducing yourself. And everybody can make a comment, and they can make a video comment to respond to you too. And I think it's a super fun way to get to know one another through Flipgrid.
Yeah, it's a good way to have video, just like you're doing video and them seeing you and hearing your voice. You can see them, and because sometimes that it's good to see your students and hear them and get to know them. Because you may just do that through discussion board or through Zoom every once in a while. So. Yeah. Good way to kind of an asynchronous way not to
it's a really quick way to just get it out there. Easy to use.
Yeah. Catherine, any tools that you've come across? She's in grad school right now, so is there anything that your professors use or that you've come across as a designer that you really has stuck out to you as a tool that maybe could be used in this way for relationship building?
I feel like you guys have named really, really good ones. I definitely think don't sleep on Google. It's free and it's got so many really great features. I mean, even something as simple as there's a lot of things that can be turned into Google Forms and that'll automatically sort the data for you. And so if you're much more comfortable with Google than Padlet, for example, but you said that Jamboard also does a similar thing.
But Google Forms is good too. Really nice. I use that a lot in K through 12, as a check-in sheet. When this was back in the pandemic when we all went hybrid, having to teach kids online Zoom and in the classroom. So I would always have a Google form for them to fill out. How are you feeling today? What is something you're looking forward to? What are you excited to learn about today? Just getting that conversation going about getting them excited about learning. So,
which could be even done on Brightspace with discussion boards. So, I mean, you could just have a check-in every week on your module that maybe go along, even if it went along with an assignment, tell me how you're doing and then tell me about chapter 11 or whatever. So, just a way to kind of get the temperature of where your students are. And if they don't feel comfortable, you could invite them to meet with you on Zoom or send you an email and say, hey, I'm making yourself available, with your question at your top. We talked about it first with questions. I think feeling comfortable with your teacher where they're approachable is a really good idea.
And an instructor who's listening to this might be thinking, that's so much extra work, or when am I going to ask students all these questions? I think what you just said, John, throwing them or maybe Claire said it too, that throwing it into an assignment that you already have. So if it's you already have to respond to this discussion post with 4 points about the reading that you did, and then also name a song that you're listening to right now. That takes 2 extra seconds from you, 2 extra seconds from them. And honestly, as a student, I find that a fun part of the assignment. I like to be able to check one more thing off, and it was a really easy thing to do, something that I think kind of fun.
You know what the best feeling is to take a quiz from a professor. And bear in mind, I have no idea how much the quiz points were, but the very last question number 10, was... and how did you like my class? That was the best because, you're earning those points either way, but that was just a great way for them to get some feedback from us too. But, I mean, throwing that into a quiz, how is everything going? Short answer.
Yeah.
It's great, and I'm loving your class right now.
Yeah. No wrong answer question.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a boost in confidence too. It only helps your student, helps them be successful.
Yeah, well, and I like that too, because discussion boards, some students may not want other students to see. Like, I'm having a terrible time right now.
Yeah.
I need help. And maybe doing it as a quiz or as a Google form or in a place where it's only the professor seeing, they can see that and say, hey, reach out and email that student or call them even and say, hey, I saw that you need something, and just be that voice. And even if I'm sure there's professors that are like, I don't want to have to baby them or do however you want to feel about that, and that's fine wherever you're at. We're not judging, but we have so many resources on this campus. It's an amazing campus, really, that can help students, that you could direct them to someone that could help mental health. We have
Shout
food
out to
services.
MCC crew.
I know. Yes, we have so many great services. And so I think that's important, just, to build those relationships. So I love it.
I love what you said, though, that like they might not want to share it with everyone. And so having a place that's built in, like part of a quiz, part of an assignment, for a student to be able to reflect. And if they don't want to tell the prof how they're doing, they can just say, yeah, life's good, busy semester, and leave it at that. No. But if they really had been kind of thinking to themselves, I really wish my professors knew that, like, I want to be giving more, but I can't because there's, like, my car broke down last week and I haven't been able to get to work, or, like, to give them an opportunity to say that. Sometimes people need to be asked those questions. They're not going to volunteer that information. So to have a space for them to do that could be really helpful. I love that.
Well, and it's scary sometimes. I look at some syllabuses and some classes, and I mean, they all have to be in this format. But when you're a student, you're like, okay, if I have late work, it's gonna be so many points off, or I may drop something, or this things that and you think, I don't know how I'm gonna do this with my life being the way it is. So you're struggling. We can help. I mean, professors. Mental health, like I said, there's so many resources. We can help that student try to find. We have tutors, we have success coaches. There's so many people that we can find ways to help these students. And like I said earlier, you could be that person that, changes them from having that bad experience and bad day and maybe saying, I don't want to do the college thing ever again. I'm just going to go out and find a job, to being the reason they go through and graduate. And so, like, hey, this professor really inspired me to get my degree, and now I'm successful and I'm doing things that I want to do with my life. So to me that's inspiring. That should make you want to do these things.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right, well, we talked about a lot of things, and we talked about building relationships, and how that's important, and I will try to link some research to our podcast and add it to the show notes. If you have questions or comments, if you want to tell us what your favorite walk-up song is, follow us on Instagram, shoot us a message, shoot me or Claire or Catherine an email. We'll be happy to talk to you. If you want to be on the podcast and share your point of view on something, then give us a shout. We'd love to have you. We do this usually on Mondays, every other Monday, maybe soon, maybe every Monday. I'd like to do that.
But we are definitely going to plan around what faculty need, We want to meet with faculty and have discussions with them.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
We have people lined up, so we're pretty excited.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. And we'll try to cover some topics that y'all want to hear. So if there's something that's kind of you want us to scratch an itch, then shoot us a message and we'll talk about it.
Scratch it.
Yeah. Hey, All right. For the instructional design team here at MCC, hopefully you'll tune back in to us next time.
Yes, and follow us on Instagram, MCC_IDA.
And subscribe to the podcast.
And subscribe to the podcast.
Thanks for listening.
Bye.